Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great in-studio guest today. I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website. It's called ordinarymarathoner.com. You can also find them at the aggregators, places like Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes, of course. If you like the show, hit that subscribe button. You never miss a new episode that way. You can also find us over at our YouTube channel now, our new YouTube channel. I've been messing around with that for a while. And head on over there, hit that subscribe button there too. We need the subscribers over there. That's what we're really trying to build out lately. Ordinary Marathon, our virtual race starts next week. It starts on Friday. So if you haven't registered, head on over to ordinarymarathon.com. We're raising money for the SAM Fund. It's a great cause. It's a 10-day event culminating in a 5K that's going to be taking place in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. You can either do it virtually or you can meet us at the Fleet Feet store in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, and we're going to be running our 5K there. With that, I'm going to bring in today's guest. She's a local.
I am.
She's a local. She's a triathlete. I honestly don't know her whole resume. I'm looking forward to getting into this a little bit. Sarah Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So I had Kat Marcy.
Yeah, you did.
You know her?
I do. I know her.
Yeah, she mentioned you.
Yeah, she did. I hope she did.
And I said, you are tight. I get the type A vibe coming from you right away.
Yes.
You mentioned that the other day.
I did.
And she had a lot of interesting things to say. Then I ran into someone named Kristen, who I think works at Health Tracks.
Yep, I know Kristen.
I think you know her too.
Yep, I do.
And she said, "Oh, Sarah, she qualified for Kona."
I did.
Wow.
Yep.
Do
Yes.
tell. Let's rewind before we get to the
Yep.
Kona. Let's rewind. I feel like I kind of spilled it all out here.
That's
for you.
okay. Yeah.
You're also wearing the shirt, the 18 Maple.
I am.
I want to get to that too. We want to get to all
Let's
this good
do that.
stuff.
Let's do that.
How'd you start? Are you a runner that turned triathlete? Are you triathlete always?
No, actually. So I found my way to Springfield. I grew up in New Hampshire.
Yep.
And I found my way down here to go to college. So I went to Springfield College.
All right.
And I played field hockey there for 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much, I finished my last collegiate game ever. And I said, what am I going to do now?
I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it?
It is. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and I was, 4 years of field hockey and, heavily invested in the time that I put in there. And then all of a sudden you just see the big stop sign and you're like, what am I going to do now? So I think I looked at my parents after I wiped away all the tears and I said, I think I'm going to need to run a marathon. So
you did this right away. Like this was like right away after college.
Oh yeah.
All right.
No. This was actually, so I finished in the fall of my senior year. And I had been hearing a little bit about Griffin's Friends.
Okay.
So
charity.
Yep. So I had looked into them and said, you know what, this is it. I'm going to run Boston. I'll run it with Griffin's Friends. It's a great cause for the Bay State Children's Hospital. And I ran Boston that year. So, and this is going to actually say how old I am now. But I ran Boston in 2000.
Okay.
As one of the bandits that back then when we could jump in and run. And that was an incredible moment. So that kind of kicked off my endurance career.
Right.
And then
so were you kind of competitive that year, or was this something that you were?
No, I was just running to finish it. And and to meet the kids, because they would bring a couple of the kids up to more, I think it was around like 23 or 24 the mile marker, to have them there and get you those last few miles just on pure adrenaline and emotion. And then I think I tried to venture off and do some marathon training a little bit more competitively on my own. And that's when, injury strikes.
Okay. And then
and then I was like, wow, I just can't keep running all these miles. So I think I might try a triathlon. I can ride my bike. I know how to swim, so I'll figure this out. And at that point I had gone back to Springfield for grad school. And, I was swimming in the pool and trying to get as many bike miles in as I could. And I did my first triathlon at home-ish in Fairleigh, Vermont. And I did an Olympic distance.
Yep.
on my mountain bike.
Yeah.
With
That's
no
challenging.
clips, just with my sneakers on.
Wow.
So,
I hear stories though, especially like nowadays. It's not that it's unheard of, but I especially you know, I don't want to say the date, but when we were younger.
Yeah, when we were younger.
When we were younger. Yeah, I mean, a bicycle didn't have. I mean, a normal person who had a bicycle never heard of clipping into your pedals.
So true.
So
true.
it's not like it's.
Yeah, but there is a very famous mile-long climb that you have to take on that, and I think I was wishing for those at that point.
Right.
But I did it, and I thought it was amazing, and I'm like, I'm going to go back and do some more, and.
So were you competitive right away though, or were you just kind of like you were just trying to compete?
I think I was per se, and then I the more that I did sprint to Olympic distance, and it took me a little while to actually say I'm gonna put the training miles in and go for a half.
So you built it up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So you asked me about Kona. It actually.
Well, I mean, we have talked about Kona.
I know. Well, it took me a really long time to actually make the commitment to. Say that I was going to try to do something a little bit more than the Olympic distance. So that was the half. And I've actually qualified for 2 Konas.
Okay. You know what? That's funny because...
Yeah, for 2 of those.
Because I feel like, I don't know if I read it, like maybe there's a bio or something, or maybe I read an article before you came on that said that there was something with a half... Like you qualified for Kona.
This was one of the last years. So there was a group of us. So I actually am a member of the Cyclonaut Multisport.
Okay,
group.
That's like a local.
Yep, it's a local triathlon group. Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're an amazing group to get started with, and then really to help foster and grow your own individual success.
Right.
And right around the time that I was making this trip, there was going to be a bunch of us. We were going to go down to St. Croix and do the half Ironman down there. And I just said, you know what? I need a vacation. I'm going to go because that's what I do. A vacation.
That's
race.
What you do. Isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I got into that for a little bit too. My thing with the vacation race is like, I remember, so we went and did Fort Lauderdale Marathon, got off the plane, and I saw like the margarita stand in the airport, and I'm like, when I go south in February, I want a margarita.
Yeah.
And I have to run a marathon tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of my issue.
It was, I think there was a group of us that was going down there that are very competitive and that knew that this was the last year that St. Croix was going to be offering qualifying slots to the Hawaiian Ironman, so the Ironman World Championships off of a half.
Do they still do that?
They do not do that anymore. And
I was going to say, I haven't really heard. I mean, I haven't been involved in it
that was the
long.
last year, so that was 2014.
Right, okay.
So that was, you know what, I was just going down there to race well, have a good time, and so how it unfolded is I actually came in second in my age group, and they only give out a certain number of qualifying slots per age group. So there was only one, but at the time, and they didn't say anything at the awards ceremony, was when they introduced my age group. They actually said that they were reallocating a slot from, I think it was the 60 to 65 or 64-year-old women. They didn't finish. So there was a slot to be claimed. So they reallocated it, I believe, to the next largest group of women.
Which was yours.
Which was mine. So
and there you go.
I'm getting ready to just go up and get my award. And now I'm going to be presented with the opportunity to choose to go to the Ironman World Championships as well as actually the half Ironman World Championships that year.
So I see, I sometimes I wonder like what if I'm way off of that thought, but I wonder if like something like that would have happened to me. Like if my first thought would be, oh my God, I'm going to Hawaii, and then my second thought would be like, oh my God, I got to pay to go to Hawaii.
No, it was and I think the thing that makes it even more special. That I had not yet done an Ironman at that point.
Oh, so Kona is Kona your first? Or did you just try to sneak one in between?
It was my first Ironman.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a May race, and Kona falls in October.
So how did your life change from when you've just qualified for Kona, doing a half?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the same as going from like a half marathon to a full marathon. I don't think.
we mentioned my type A personality. The blinders go on a little bit. I was in a job shift at the time, so I had a little bit more time on my hands.
Yeah.
And the blinders just flew up, and I started to really pay far more attention.
How much time did you have?
I had a decent amount of time. I was working more on a part-time basis, trying to, and I actually had started.
I mean, in terms of from your race when you qualified until Kona.
If I can remember correctly, 20 to 24 weeks.
Weeks, okay.
So plenty of time to train and race.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you're in shape, you can kind of.
Yep. I actually did 2 halves leading up to the Ironman in 2014. So,
gotcha. You're not going to Lake Placid this year, are you?
No, I am not.
All right.
Actually, I missed you by a year. I was there last year.
I was there last year too. Unfortunately, you definitely lapped me on the bike.
No, I was there spectating. I was happy
probably still lapped me on the
bike. So that was actually my first experience in Hawaii and Kona for the Ironman World Championship, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
To do my first Ironman.
And so now when you qualify, are you like out there swimming with like the top competitors before, like, you know how they have like 3, right? They set off, I don't know if the women go first, then the men.
The pro women.
And then the rest of everybody. So are you with the pro women?
Nope.
For qualifying? No.
Nope,
okay.
Nope. So anybody that actually is going to be in Kona at this time for the Ironman World Championships.
Yeah.
They're all have gotten there largely through the qualifying,
right.
The automatic qualifier. So you're going off as a mass start. So that what you see on television, you're in that. It's like it's a washing machine.
So and how do you find it different? Like kind of, I like in Kona they make you kind of tread water for a little while. Yeah. Is that kind of annoying? I mean, I guess maybe are you buoyant enough with the?
So I can tell you from having. I've been very lucky to have 2 experiences there. And the first time I had a friend of mine, Steve Roulier, he actually started me out training when I was very young in this sport. And he was lucky enough to go there as well and qualify at Mount Tremblant several years ago.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, Sarah, you got to get in the water and you just got to give me a big 360 spin. You just got to take it all in. Because there's so much going on. You have the pier to your right. You have the wall and the waves just breaking along. You have the very infamous church steeple, and then you have that giant volcanic mountain and the sun just coming up over that. He's like, you just got to take that all in. And it was exactly what I needed for my first time. Yeah.
How'd you do? Were you focused on trying to finish within a certain time, or you?
No, I just needed to finish.
Because
I had no markers. I had no baseline to go off of.
Right, because it was your first time ever doing
it. It was my first time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Second time was a little different, but
so all right, so. I mean, it's like kind of like a weird sport in that it's not really on TV all the time, right?
No, it's not.
But yet, if you follow it, you you can see some of the coverage of Kona in the past. So did you know kind of what to expect going into Kona, or was it?
I did. Yeah. I am very lucky in that there are a lot of cyclonauts that actually have been fortunate enough to qualify.
Isn't it crazy?
Well. It is. I know you were saying earlier this week in the podcast how
I thought I was unique and
No, listen, we all are very unique and we're all very lucky to be able to do what we do and to qualify for the races. And some people work at a more competitive level than others. And but that's to take nothing away from, finishing an Ironman, right at that closing second and having Mike Riley count you down and bring you in. I mean, the time that has to be taken to spend almost 16 hours out on the race course to somebody that's going to be maybe hours faster, but it's still the same kind of day.
It's cool,
if not more so on the other end.
And a lot of times out there. And a lot of times the winners will wait and they'll put the medals, and it's such a great kind of tradition that they do that. And it's really like it's just that it's nice that they pay attention to us slow folk in the back.
To have been lucky enough to volunteer at Lake Placid at the finish line and to see everybody come in and be able to hand them their medal or just kind of sweep them up and carry them off to wherever they need to go to get their water or their picture or to the med tent. But share in that finish line moment, that's the best.
So you've done that too. Is that what you did last year? Or did you volunteer?
I did do that last year. I've actually done that twice now, and it's such an inspiring moment.
Right.
Regardless of what kind of day they've all had, it's the same energy that comes to the finish line, and
it's amazing.
It's an exhausted just feeling of such joy and accomplishment.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just, standing there and watching everyone come in, and and realizing that they just spent how much time out there just moving.
And it's not just that. That's the one day. That's what you're training for.
Oh, yeah.
It is the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours spent.
You don't just show up and do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't just show up and do it. It's it's crazy. It is, but what a day to have up there. And geez, for you to go to Kona, that must have been like, how did you feel when you finished? Was it kind of like what you thought? Like when you think about the finish shoot?
There was a lot of things that were pushing me to that finish line. There's a lot of internal motivation that's going on. There was a lot of external motivation with people that were just very generous in donating and helping me get there. This is a very expensive sport that we've decided to take up. And, just to vacation to Hawaii is one thing. And then to pay the race entry fee and
you can't exactly just throw the bike on the rack and drive it to Hawaii.
No, there are a lot of expenses that are involved in getting yourself out there to race that.
It's kind of hard to say no though if your number's called like that.
What?
You can't.
It is, and it is one of those. It's that elusive spot that everybody's looking for.
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody. There's certainly a lot of people that are training exceptionally hard to get there.
So the second time that you got there, was this another? Was it a goal of yours when you got to?
This one was.
And how did you qualify for that one?
I qualified in Mount Tremblant in 2017.
At a full.
Yeah, at a full.
Okay.
So I knew that I was going to have to more than likely win my age group in order to get a qualifying spot to get back there.
And
because as my brain works, being there the first time, you feeling so accomplished, and I did well. And don't ask me what my time was because I don't remember. I should, but
I don't remember most of mine either. I always guess, and then I always probably add on a few minutes because I don't want to be that guy that gives you the time that's lower than my actual time.
And it's also one of those things. I think it just speaks to I've had the ability to do that, and I did it, and of course I always want to be better than I was the last time, but it was the culmination of all those moments that you spent. That moment in St. Croix to finding out that this was what was happening, and to being in the back of the the banquet hall that we were in. Quite honestly, it had been a rough couple of months leading into that race. So, I hate to say it, but kind of dropping to your knees and just crying and realizing that this is something that you never thought was ever going to be possible, and it's now sitting right there for you.
Anything is possible. That's what they say.
They do say that, don't they?
It's a great video. Look it up on YouTube.
It is. And to have had a group of friends around me who knew that.
Right.
So that finish line moment, and all the training and the people that helped me get there and the new friends that I had made and throughout the course of my new job and without the new job and the people that I worked with and having started at Continuum Performance Center at that time, it wouldn't have been nearly as special. So I forget the times.
Yeah.
But I remember the moments.
Doesn't matter.
And I was so lucky to have my parents. Somehow my mother was able to scramble up some VIP passes. So my two brothers and my parents were at the finish line.
That's awesome.
So I didn't cry crossing the finish line, but I did when I saw them.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments.
Yeah, and I remember, it's funny because I remember crossing my first marathon I think was more meaningful to me than my first Ironman, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And when I finished the first Ironman, I remember thinking to myself, because that was my first triathlon.
Yep.
And I remember thinking to myself, this was a dumb idea. This is a really long day, and I just want to get it over with. And then I wound up doing it again a few months later, and having done it once before, the second time I was kind of able to conserve energy in places and figure things out.
From your mistakes.
Yeah, and I improved by like 20 minutes. It was like 3 months later.
Yeah.
And although it was in Maryland, which is very flat on the bike, but there was a lot of wind that day.
Yeah.
And in actuality, I went with two friends that raced Lake Placid.
Mm-hmm.
They actually did worse at Maryland, and I did 20 minutes better. So it made me feel, even though they kicked my butt,
it's the day.
Yeah, it made me feel really good about it. And then last year I DNF'd, but we're not going to talk about that. Yeah. So I am going to Mont Tremblant for the half.
Yes.
And
it's an amazing place.
Is it?
And I had the opportunity to race there in 2014 for the half Ironman Worlds.
Yeah.
Preparing me for the first trip out to Kona. And I walked away from that experience saying, if I ever race another Ironman again, or when I race another Ironman, this is where I'm going to come.
You like it? You like it that much?
It's amazing. It's in an incredible village. It is very much like the Lake Placid of Quebec, of Canada. It is.
Yeah, I hear a lot. I hear a lot of comparisons. Even the bike course is relatively similar. I mean, a little different, but
it's hilly. It's rolling. I think people will go back and forth and tell you which one is more difficult or more challenging, depending on the day. But
I think the way I've heard, like the things I've heard, is like Tremblant has like some steeper hills.
Yep.
But they're not like Lake Placid has like 16 miles of like, you know what I mean? That climb back into Wilmington is like, it's a long, it might not be steep, but
they're going to bite you.
Yeah. And they're you know, you're basically, it's pressure against you the entire time.
I mean, Tremblant, you'd certainly have the highway to work in your favor, and you just rollers. But, you know, if the wind's in your face, it's...
Yeah, it could be a tough day.
It could be a tough day, but it's just managing. It's just managing your day and nutrition. Yeah. And just your output, whether you're working off of heart rate or watts or both or none, and just feel. So.
I don't have the bike computer. I should get the bike computer.
Maybe.
It's tough.
But if, you know.
I just, you know what it is? I'm still kind of in, and I know I talked about this with Kristen the other day when I met her.
Yep.
And we were saying how, you know, I feel like maybe with the half, I could probably race the half, like feel like I'm racing it in spots. I mean, I don't know if I could race it the whole way, but like it's similar to how I like would race a half marathon.
Yeah.
Whereas a full, I'm there to survive it. And,
you are.
And I am. But you, and Kristen's Kristen said that the only person that she knew who could race a full Ironman was you.
Well, that's a big compliment. A lot of it too for me was racing off a feel.
Yeah.
But you put in the hours and the training before that you're really just going to be taking that day with you, those long training days. And I'm one of those few that actually didn't until recently have a power meter. So
there you go.
I cannot begin to tell you what my watts were that day. I can tell you how I felt.
Yeah.
And that was what was working for me. I knew where my heart rate was, and I settled in and I stayed there. But I also knew that if I was going to try to qualify, I needed to race within myself and not race others.
Right. Well, you do have to race some others if you want to qualify.
You do, but because of the way that the swim start is worked, you're just kind of self-seeding and you're going in.
You don't know where anyone is.
So you really have no idea where you are on the course until I got onto the run. And that was, I was lucky enough to also have a large group of friends that were up there.
Spotting kind of?
And they were spotting, she was kind of giving me a few like hand signals. Not that, I mean, I was just out there to run at that point. I mean, you got a full marathon in front of you and it's like, man, I just got to hold this together. But she told me, I think I was in second or third or something like that.
And then you're looking at the legs every time you pass somebody.
Like, and you're on a bike path. So you can see who's coming at you. Yeah. And you can start counting and you can start figuring it out. And it's a 2-loop course. So by the time I was coming down off the second loop for the...
Did you have to come in first?
I did, yeah. There was only... I'm sorry, there were actually 2 slots that year, but I didn't know that. But you don't know. But you don't know.
Right.
It's some mathematical equation that they have all figured out based off of how many are in your age group.
Right.
So...
Wow, so you're running down the path and you're watching people come at you and you're trying to judge whether or not you got to catch that person.
Yeah. So
that sounds really like intense.
It was, but I stayed, I had to do what was right for me that day. And I knew that I could probably hold a certain pace and I made sure my heart rate stayed within a particular range, and I just made sure I fueled.
Yeah.
And I ended up catching her probably right around the 13, 14 mile mark.
You still had juice?
I still had juice.
Yeah.
And we were going uphill at that point too. So I was like, oh man.
But she was probably out of juice. You still had some.
Yeah, but apparently I made up I think I made up a pretty good chunk of time. I'm not sure if it was 13 or 18. Again, numbers are crazy sometimes.
But still, it's.
I made up a pretty big deficit. She
cooked herself on the bike. Probably.
She was a massive biker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I tell you, I think cycling is the key. You know, like you see, like Lance Armstrong winning. I mean, granted, he was doing other things, but
absolutely. But you got to be able to get off that bike and run.
Yeah. I mean. It's, I think so many people, so many cyclists. It's like, I feel like cyclists, you see a lot of cyclists come in to try, but you don't see a lot of marathoners come in to try. You don't see really a lot of swimmers. I mean, Lucy Charles, maybe, I don't know. Right. But even that, like, I think it's a cyclist sport that it's up to, how you adapt out of cycling to the running and the swimming for the most part. And it makes sense because, even for me, like, when I take a step back and I look at my swim time and I'm like, all right, it was like my first year was like an hour and 24. Mm-hmm. Happy with that. Mm-hmm. Happy with that. I'm a chubby old guy. I'm good with an hour and 24. How much work, if I work my butt off in swimming, how much faster am I going to get?
Not that much.
See, I'm getting some free coaching advice here.
I mean, and there's a lot to swimming too. There's technique. Yeah.
And I think I swim okay.
And then it's open water, and then it's swimming in a straight line.
Oh,
and then managing the people around you. So and you can buy the best wetsuit on the market, but if you're not able to manage all those other things that are around you, it can be tough. So you may not cut much time, but you're certainly going to be able to do that on the bike.
Exactly. And I was an 8-hour bike ride. I just looked it up before you came. I was like, 8-hour bike ride that first year that I still finished. But 8 hours probably about as wide as you can get without, missing the cutoff. And then, and then you got to try to, do a 6 or 7 hour marathon at that point. Yep. But, and I discovered in that first Ironman that you can really walk a 6-hour marathon.
You absolutely can.
Absolutely. And you just, and then it really helped me for the second one.
I think that's the other thing too, is that people are afraid to walk.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I said that to myself when I was heading into the first Kona that I did. And I was like, I'm not going to walk. And I found it pretty soon I was going to walk.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a bad thing. I was probably moving faster. I was managing everything, my energy output, so much more by cooling my body down, walking. It is like hot as the sun out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, it doesn't even matter if it's, an overcast day, but super humid here or in Lake Placid. I mean, God knows what kind of weather you're going to get up there.
I know. Yeah.
But just
it's going to be hot in Kona.
It's going to be hot in Kona, no matter what. But it was a warm day in Tremblant, and you can have, super freaky warm days or cold and wet.
Right.
I mean, you never know what your conditions are going to get.
Well, I think Tremblant, I'm a little nervous for June in Tremblant because I know in July in Lake Placid, the water can be cold.
Yep.
And I don't like cold water. Oh. Listen, I want to talk about your coaching.
Yeah.
So at some point, you decided it just wasn't all about Sarah Kelly.
Right.
It's about about doing more. And,
it was.
And sort of imparting your knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did this all start?
So it was actually, I started, like I said, at Continuum Performance Center, and just trying to build out that business for myself as a personal coach. Yep. Doing personal training, doing group classes, but then there's always something more, and my passion for endurance training. And I had a good friend of mine. He got pretty ill training for his first Ironman, and it was just a perfect storm, that kind of took him out really, really close to his first race, and he wasn't able to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what, maybe there's more that I can do to help. Having my undergraduate degree in athletic training, my graduate degree in strength and conditioning, and having spent a large chunk of time and years training, I understand the process of periodization and planning things out, and I do that with athletes. I coached collegiately for 12 years. So there was
field hockey.
I did. Yep. So there's a lot of what I know that I can try to pass on to others. So it was actually my brother. He sent it to me. It was Ironman was putting out their coaching certification. So he's like, Sarah, I really think you should do this.
Right.
I was like, I don't know. I've only done one. So over, some time I mulled it and I was like, you know what, I think I need to do this. And I kind of talked to my boss, Jeff, who is the owner of Continuum Performance Center. I said, I think that this is something I need to do. Right. And I mean, it's virtually going to be like going back to school for almost a semester. There was a window of time I had to get it done in and still do my full-time position.
Yeah.
But
so that's like, isn't that like a weekend class?
This was like a 90-day long course, and I sat in front of a computer. I felt like a student again. I was probably cornered up over in Shelburne Falls with headphones on, trying to go through everything.
That was you?
That was me. That was me. Yeah, the one with the eyes going cross-eyed at some point. But it was an amazing course, and it's geared towards more of the I'll say the ultra endurance, so half Ironman. And it was a new certification, but from a really strong business background, and the coaches that they had there as your kind of mentors on the screen are big name coaches that you're going to see throughout many of the the broadcasts, or just if you read a magazine, you're gonna see a lot of those names that they were coming up with. So, and I also know that the USAT certification, while it's an amazing cert, it really wasn't the niche that I wanted to go to. So I wanted to cater more towards those ultra endurance athletes, and fortunately enough, I was able to pass on the first try.
Kind of figured that.
and in that time, was thinking, okay, well, what do I call this business?
Right.
18 Maple Endurance Training is what it's called.
Is that like your address?
It actually was our address at the time, but it stands for something a little bit more. And I think when people begin to start putting their heart and soul into their businesses, there's more to it than just the name. 18 Maple was the location of our business at the time. It was what housed more or less my virtual business. Do a lot of virtual coaching. But it was also the point where I was able to professionally take a turn and go in a direction where I think I was starting to see a little bit more success. And that was a personal achievement, I think, on my side, to feel like I was really impacting people from a professional standpoint as well. Maple has a little bit of a family background. For years and years, my dad would make maple syrup.
There you go. Yeah.
And I think for those of us that have done anything endurance related, while it is a very selfish venture, it cannot be done without the help of your family and your support and your inner circle. And it's more or less, tribute to what my family has allowed me to do. And my professional family as well at Continuum Performance Center. Those guys are, and now my ladies that are there, they're amazing. And they really do allow me to accomplish a lot of things. 18
Maple, like now part of Continuum?
So so it does. It sits underneath the Continuum Performance umbrella. Okay. So there's Continuum Performance Center, the actual brick and mortar, the building, which we've now relocated to 175 Benton over by the post office.
Yes, I know. Oh, actually, was that the old, wasn't there
there was another training facility a little bit further down the road. Yeah, but there was another training facility in there. We took over the space.
Are you in the Tom Capito build? Is that we're near the trail?
The pit building.
Okay.
So we're further down. Okay. Off of the trail. Off of the corner of Benton and Industrial.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right.
It's such an amazing spot. And then we actually have Edge.
That's the GoPro.
That's the GoPro.
Yeah, it's dead.
It's dead. That's
all right. We got plenty.
But Edge is our team training side of the house, and then we also 18 Maple is the endurance training. So when you work with 18 Maple, you're really also working with Continuum Performance Center. But you get me hands on, whether that's through the computer and the virtual programming that I do, or if you come in, and we do run events.
Well, you have something coming up, I think. I saw something come across Facebook the other day. It was like a training weekend.
I got a bunch of things coming up.
Well, let's hear them.
So I actually have 3 weekends that are going to be kind of hosted out of CPC, which are going to be kind of catering more towards the to the triathlete that wants to really just dedicate a weekend to themselves,
right,
and not actually have to leave the comforts of their home per se.
Right.
And we're going to be, actually the first one is going to be May 11th. It's unfortunately the day before Mother's Day, so we're only going to do a 1-day weekend event. We'll do a ride, and I've got Randall's breakfast sandwiches, because everybody loves Randall's breakfast sandwiches.
Do you want to know? I don't even know what that.
You don't know what that is? Oh, well, you need to come to my day, and
for the sandwich.
Just for the sandwich alone, it'll fuel you up. We'll go out, we'll ride, we'll come back, and then we'll feed you up real good, so that you don't have to worry about anything. So everything is all taken care of.
Yeah.
I know that's a big piece of being a triathlete and or a marathoner. Where am I going to go? What is my route going to look like?
Yeah.
What is my terrain going to be? What happens if I get lost? So we're taking care of all of that for you.
Right.
And we're going to fuel you up really well, because part of it is training is one thing, but if you don't take care of your body on the other side, and I've kind of coined it my reload. So you get an opportunity to essentially just reload your body, whether it's with nutrition or hydration, and or taking the time to allow your body to recover through trigger point or massage or ice baths or all the various.
Do you have the big space
methods.
Boots, recovery boot?
I do not. A couple people have. I've been lucky enough to borrow them, and they're amazing.
Are they?
They are.
Are they?
Yeah.
A friend of mine just got them.
They're well worth the investment. Just not an investment. That
It's
I
just
can,
a really expensive investment.
It is.
I'd like to have that pool that goes in your basement.
Seriously,
you
right?
know?
I mean, who needs to?
I'd like to have that too,
Right.
but you know.
I know. And then I also have two events going on in July. So I have we've rented a house on a lake in Ludlow, Vermont. So we're kind of getting a little bit closer up to where I grew up.
Okay.
And I'm hosting a women's only runcation, which is going to be at the front end of the week. So all abilities are welcome.
Oh, wow.
It's nothing where you have to be at a particular level of training or
can take my wife.
speed. Let's bring her. And I have actually, I have a woman locally. She's a subscriber at Continuum Performance Center. Beth Pesha is her name. She is a wonderful woman, just an amazing believer in all things holistic and in eating and fueling well. She just recently got her health coaching certification, and she will be coming up and catering our weekend.
wow.
And the big piece behind this and the other portion of that week that I'm going to host is a triathlon training camp. The training is one thing. And you got to put a lot of time into that, but you can't do that if you're not fueling your body well. And teaching the women and the triathletes that come up to how to source their meals, their food, how to actually eat without actually having to open a package. Now, we know that that's the easiest thing to do while we're out riding or sometimes we're out running, but we don't have to be grabbing bars and everything like that. That's processed while we are, just kind of casually
hanging around.
Yeah. So there's a lot of time, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. And I know it's just one more thing on top of all the time we put in training, but it is so critically important to make sure that our bodies are topped off at the peak that they can actually be at. So, and a big piece of that is fueling and hydration. So Beth will be coming up to teach and to educate on how to fuel. And how to source your fuel.
Yeah. And that's July, you said?
And that's in July. So the weekend of July 13th to the 21st.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we have some beds open, and it's going to be, everything's inclusive.
Then I have to be with the baby all weekend. It's going to be tough. I just had that for a couple of days. I barely survived.
You'll be fine. I also think that you got an Ironman coming up.
Yeah, I do.
Well,
Soon after. I think it's the 28th. There you go. 100 days. 100 days left.
There it is.
100 days left. But listen, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was excellent. And I mean, I can't believe how many Ironman triathletes there are
it's
around
crazy to
here.
think about, but and we're really fortunate to have such a really amazing group. It's just trying to find them all.
Yeah. Well, it's just
They're
I mean,
everywhere.
my friend Laura, I asked if she knew you, and she heard of 18 Maple, I think, but she didn't know you personally.
Right.
And she's a I think a USAT certified coach. she's doing amazing. And I know, I met some guys in the pool, and they got their Ironman bags.
Yeah.
And
I might know those guys.
Yeah. I think you know some of them. But yeah, it's just incredible that it's like hidden here is this like vibrant community that, and I think to a certain degree, they make fun of us for like anyone who does a marathon or whatever. They always how do you know they did a marathon? Because don't worry, they'll tell you.
Sure, they're going to tell you. I think that's one of the things, though. I mean, I've been very lucky, and I've had a lot of success.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go around and tell you too much about it.
Right.
I might wear
it's
the jacket
kind of a good
every
joke,
once in a while.
It's a good joke, but it's not real.
It is certainly something to be very, very proud of.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky to have had the experience that I've had and to be able to compete at this level.
So when is your next race?
So I'm going to actually be doing Atlantic City in September.
Is that a half?
So that'll be a half.
Yep.
And then, so one of those guys in the pool, he's probably the one I'm thinking of, has convinced me to do, maybe you've heard of it, this swim run challenge.
I have not.
Yep. So it's now a thing.
Okay.
It is so we're going to be going up to the Casco Bay Islands in Portland, Maine.
Okay.
And
So you don't take your bike?
No, I don't need my bike, but we will be swimming point to point to point, and those points are the Casco Bay Islands. So then we'll get out and we'll traverse over the island.
You got to swim, then run, then swim, then run.
Then swim, then run. So I think there's anywhere from 11 to 13 miles worth of running.
Okay.
And anywhere from 4 to 5 miles worth of swimming.
Open water. Salt water?
Open, cold water.
I tell you, so when I did Maryland, I don't think I'll ever do another saltwater race again.
I found it to be very much easier to swim. The salt is gonna keep you a little bit more buoyant, but it can mess with your stomach. And that was the first thing I said to my family when I saw them. They got to be out on the pier the first year I did Kona. They're like, Sarah, how was it out there? I'm like, oh man, it was salty.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Can you think of something better to say?
I just remember getting that water, and we had a lot of current, and they call it the Chop Tank River in Maryland. And it wasn't awful. I think it was actually interesting because in the evening you have to run by the same spot that you swam, and the water was like intense, bad. Like they would never had to swim in the evening if the water was like that in the morning. And I always swim wide because I just don't like being in the crowd, which may be a mistake. But the current would push you in towards the buoy. So what would happen is the people on the wide are getting pushed in, and the people on the in are fighting to get out, and everyone's just like, and then the good swimmers are lapping you, and they're coming across with their elbows, and you're like, so I'll stay in Mirror Lake.
Fresh water,
Right.
I'll take it every day.
My friend lived in Lake Placid for years, and he says,
beautiful.
And he would watch every year, and he said every year someone would get out, broken toes, broken fingers, bleeding nose from getting elbowed or kicked or whatever. Yep. And when I heard that, I'm like, you know what? I'm a decent swimmer, but I practice by myself in a pool. Yep. I don't practice with people giving me elbows and stuff, so. Right. I'll take a few feet and just kind of.
Well, we can work on that. I mean, we'll just go down to Crystal Lake and I'll
you
just
can hit me with a bat. I mean, you could probably help me out because I don't even really know. I mean, I used to swim. When I went to swim, I would go out to Boston to Walden Pond and swim with a friend out there.
No, there's so many spots around here.
And I never swim around here. Yep. But
there's some good spots. I actually am unfortunate that I don't have the time of the day to get out when everybody's swimming. Yeah. And I actually do choose to not swim alone when I'm out in the open water.
Yeah, but it's probably smart.
Sharks. Sharks or giant turtles.
Snakes.
Oh, don't get me started on snakes. But no, there's a large group of the cyclonauts, and then even some of the maybe they're not cyclonauts; they're just out there.
Have you ever heard of heat?
I have. Yeah.
Can I tell you my funny heat story?
Yeah, do it.
So I'm running in Lake Placid.
Yeah.
And I see someone with the Hartford extended area triathletes.
Okay.
Right. So I see someone, and I have a friend of mine who's in the group. Mm-hmm. And I want to see if that person maybe knew my friend. So I'm running and I go, hey, excuse me. She's like, I'm like, are you in heat? And the guy I was running was like, I can't believe you just said that.
That's not what you want to be asking her right now.
Like, that was just a horrible pickup line. It was terrible.
What did she say?
She laughed.
Did she laugh? I hope she laughed.
I think, the guy I was running with, he caught on right away. And he's like that. And then we just all had a good chuckle. And,
you know what? And sometimes you need those moments.
Yeah, it's
when
true.
Things are getting really intense.
It was late in the race too.
Yeah.
I think it couldn't have been too late because it was still light out. So I think it was my first approach back into Lake Placid. So it must have been like mile 10 or 11 or something like that. But certainly something that I remember. It's like one of the,
and you know what? And those are the
I'm not responsible for anything that I say after.
Those are the best moments to remember. You're not gonna remember.
Right.
You might remember some of those crappy moments.
No.
But it's those are the moments that are going to stick with you. And I think, that's the biggest reason as to why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you have some moments during your, Kona, the salty,
Yeah. The second Kona wasn't nearly as, I would say, as joyful. Yeah. I knew what to expect that year. So
did you push? Did you press maybe? Like what? Or you just...
I think I was just, it was one of those days I was overly nervous, and I had no right to be, but I also knew that my body was coming off of an Ironman 8 weeks prior, and I wasn't 100%.
So you only had 8 weeks from Mont Tremblant till, it's right, August to, right, isn't it August, or is it later?
It was mid-August.
Yeah, and then Kona, wow.
Yeah, so...
That's awesome.
There are just a lot of things, and I mean, this could be a whole nother podcast in and of itself. Is just.
I know I'm keeping you here, and I know you. I know you have.
It's totally fine to how you mentally prepare for races and ones that you've already done, and you suffered, and you suffered bad, but you had a great experience, and of course.
Sometimes the one you suffer is better.
Yeah,
it's like better.
So, but it was there were a lot of things about getting there and proving that I earned the right to be there. The last time it was 2.5, and
it's so funny. I think we all do this. Let's end it on this kind of thinking. But I think we all kind of do this to a certain degree, and maybe not everybody. But you qualified for Kona, you are in Kona, you race it, you finish, and yet. Like there's a question. It seems like I could have done better. Or what could I have done?
Yeah.
And for me sometimes like finishing 2 Ironman races and then not finishing my last one. And I always meant to get the tattoo. You have the tattoo?
I do not have the tattoo.
I'm thinking about getting the tattoo. The new tattoo parlor opened on Main Street.
Maybe you should.
Well, the thing is, I kind of want to, but I kind of feel like, and it's weird because people.
A little redemption this time around.
I need to re-earn it. Yeah. Like I need to earn it back.
That. I totally get that.
See, type
totally
A, type A.
It is the type A. It is a little type A.
Because people tell me like, why would you just go get it? Like and I'm like, no, I DNF'd my last time. I feel like, I don't know, it's like, so I said to like a friend of mine, we were joking around, and I'm like, I want to be the guy at the beach when they see the Ironman tattoo that they say, wow, that dude did an Ironman, and not say, that guy did an Ironman? Right. Yeah. So I want to kind of,
It's true.
But I want to get it back a little bit.
Even though you had that one DNF, I mean, it's taking those moments and learning from them, and then being able to go into this year, and you're at your 100-day mark. So it's one of those things where you're like, you just now have to start spinning everything in a much more positive light, and not so much using your redemption race as your fuel to get you to to where you want to be. And that was what Mount Tremblant was for me in 2017, and to get to Kona. And I'm talking like I didn't have a fantastic race. I did. I had a good day. It wasn't the day that I was hoping for, but I still had a great day. And I think that's the other piece of it, taking the experiences that I've had, and then being able to work with my athletes through 18 Maple, and, getting an opportunity to talk with Kat about her days and her races.
She's incredible.
She's incredible. And then, and I think she's special. There's certainly something about what she has for talent.
Yeah.
And then I have other athletes that maybe are not necessarily at the same caliber, who are going out there and they're having those same moments.
Right.
And
and it's a great sport for that.
Exactly. And regardless if they have, that age group winning day, or they cross the finish line and they've done it for their first time, I think that's the biggest thing that 18 Maple is about the process and the training, and allowing people to help you get there. And it's not just about you. While you're the one doing the work, it's about taking care of you and everybody else, and staying true to the process. And maybe that was your process to get you to 100 days from now. You had to experience that DNF.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
You never know.
I mean, the thing is when you do it, you know what it takes to get there.
You do.
And then when you get on the line and you know you didn't do what it took to get there, but you try anyway,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't work. It's kind of like.
But I also think taking into consideration where you're at right now and how very different your life is right now.
Yeah.
With your little one upstairs, you know, that's huge.
Yeah.
But getting an opportunity to experience what you're doing now and then toe the line 100 days from now in Placid.
Hopefully a little more confidence.
But with confidence and knowing I gave everything that I had.
Yeah.
And, you know, that finish line moment.
It'll probably be better this time.
I think so.
It'll be better this time than last time. I think it will be too.
Yeah.
I think it will be too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming.
You're so welcome.
This is awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. 18 Maple, Sarah Kelly.
Thank you.
Are you compete with like 70.3 in Atlantic City?
Yep.
Are you like trying to qualify still, or are you
Well, I mean,
if it happens, it happens.
Well,
it could happen.
I like to make sure that I stay competitive.
I just want to know what the goals are here.
I don't know at this point. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
You're so welcome.
And we're gonna have you back again, I think, at some point.
Love it.
I feel like we've left conversation on the table here. I think we could talk for a couple hours.
We could do that.
All right. With that, we're gonna say goodbye for the day. And always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.
Remember to like our video and subscribe to our channel.